Welcome back to Orange Hat Reviews, everybody. Hope you're all having a wonderful day, night, whatever it is, wherever you are. We got a good one for you tonight with our 5th episode of Versus Streams. We got the Xenomorph Army from the Alien franchise, and it's not just going to be the ones that you're used to in the movies. We got some different species we're going to be putting in, and we'll get more into that after we introduce the panelists. And the first one up, if any of you know her as the Queen of Star Wars lore, and she really knows her stuff, folks. So definitely give it up for OG Star Wars.
Hi, everyone, and thank you for having me on for this fun debate, and thank you again. And you can find me on my channel, OG Star Wars. You can find me on Twitter with the same type of handle, but just with the 2 letters AB at the back of or behind the lettering. And I do basically the EU Legends lore and some Star Wars news. And yeah, so thank you so much for having me here.
Very welcome. Now, our next panelist is also joining us for the first time. You can catch him on his channel, RK Outpost. He does some legend stuff. He does gaming and many other things. Give it up for Ryan Kinnell.
What's going on, guys? Thank you for having me, Orange Hat Reviews. I do really appreciate being here. All I know is that I was asked to, kind of stand for the Mandalorians against some aliens or something like that. No problem. These are the people that have gone to war with the Jedi and walked away with honor. These are the people that have gone to war with Yuzong Vong and handled their business. I felt like some Xenomorphs ain't no problem. So yeah, I'm happy to be here to defend the Mandalorian honor.
Yes.
All right. And another one, our next panelist is also joining us for the first time. I was going to have him in a previous one, but unfortunately we had fold up, and he was gracious enough to say he'll join the next one. So give it up for Darth Annihilus, folks.
Hello, everyone. I have a gaming channel. And yeah, that's pretty much it about me. I stream, I like Star Wars, I like aliens. Let's do this.
And all right. And our last but certainly not least panelist is my co-host. He's been on, I think, all of them. I'm not sure, but most of them if he hasn't. And he's also I've been on his channel. He does some great stuff. Give it up for the ambassador.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is a pleasure to be here. It is wonderful to actually work with 2 people that I have watched on quite a bit and everything. OG Star Wars and Ryan Kinnell. Your reputations precede you, and to Mr. Kinnell, you are not the only one who's defending the Mandalorian honor tonight, sir.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about. I like it.
So it is a pleasure to be on this.
Well, I'm here too for that.
It is a pleasure to be on this most august panel this evening with some people that I very much respect in the geek community. OG Star Wars, Ryan Kinnell, and Darth Annihilus, sir. I have heard of you, but I have not watched your channel, and I have actually am going to be getting into some gaming stream myself or anything. So it's a pleasure to meet you. And yeah, Star Wars and aliens.
Same to you too, sir.
Thank you. Appreciate
Alrighty.
it. Well, and to kind of represent the gamer.
Nice.
I also recognize your handle from Babylon 5.
Oh. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Not many people do, but it's amazing how many people I've come across.
I'm rewatching the show again.
I actually do. I'm doing a weekly review of the series or anything. So if you want to check that out, Annihilus, by all means, or anything, you can find it over on my channel. So
absolutely.
So all right.
All righty. So before we get into this, let's do some chat addressing. We got. Let's see here. Jade Shadow. Mary Jade. Love that woman's channel. She does some great stuff. I love Mandalorians, but she's going to go with the Xenomorphs. Or Shia Storm Dragon.
That's what they're presence.
Yeah, there's my mod.
She doesn't know anything about the Mandalorians, never seen it, just here to listen. That's awesome too. And I got my moderator, plugging channels. Thank you, Soul Assassin. And Epi, the Oss. Yep. He's doing, or the good thing about Xenomorphs is that they don't need defenders, unlike the Mandalorians in this matchup. But hashtag boom, nice.
I don't know if we listen. All these people saying Xenomorph, they're going to win. I don't see any of them step up to get in the ring. To defend,
exactly.
I've got a single name for everybody here. Canderous Ordo.
Oh yeah, he'd do some good blasting. Now, all right.
I got another name for you, Mandalorian the Great.
Yep, him too.
I got another name for you, Jango Fett. I've got another name for you, Jango Fett's mentor.
Oh, I've got
Jaster Maria.
Jaster Maria.
Jaster Maria. Yeah, thank you. So
Mantra sucks.
Mantra's a bitch. That's okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Scarada.
Yep, Clan Scarada. We're basically having this is EU Mandalorians, folks. So we're not doing these pussy versions from frickin' Disney, Star Wars, and whatnot.
The Clone Wars.
Or the Clone Wars either. I mean, pacifists. What the hell? That's like total blasphemy right there.
What the hell? I'm sorry.
If it
I'm gonna say it.
The Mandalorians are space hippies now, guys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right, so
no, they are.
This isn't going to be.
They were never space hippies.
Now,
I was being sarcastic.
Anybody who knows the Xenomorphs, folks, anybody who knows the Xenomorphs, Aliens is everybody's favorite out of most of those movies. So it's not just going to be those ones that you see in this or that are going to be a part of this battle. We're going to have the warriors with the rigid skulls. We're going to have other types as well. If anybody knows the 2010 Alien versus Predator game where you could play Colonial Marines, Alien, or Predator, there is a version of Alien called the Praetorian. It's like a queen, a little bit smaller, not as many arms, but the crest or the head is very reminiscent. It actually is the sort of bodyguard of the queen. If you're in a queen nest, these things are very close to the queen.
I don't know if this exactly works as how I remember it, but if the queen should die, one of the Praetorians takes the place.
A Praetorian can actually evolve into a queen, yes. The number or the story mode for the Xenomorph actually has number 6 becoming a queen because she survived the killing or the culling of the nest. Now another one we have is what's known as a boiler Xenomorph. This one is known in Colonial Marines. It's kind of like a kamikaze Xenomorph because it will, or if it senses any type of movement, it will go close to it and just blow itself up, basically. And everybody knows that these aliens have very strong acid blood. So that's another thing that we're going to have to figure out. Will it be enough to burn through Beskar?
No.
It's always been a big question of mine. When we had this fight, was what are the aliens going to do to be able to penetrate true Mandalorian Beskar gem? And I guess I don't know too much about this acid. I know that not really anything. Even the blade of a lightsaber can penetrate Beskar. It can take a hell of a beating. So what do you guys think about this acid, I guess?
Well, this acid burns through or can burn through a ship, so it's nothing to blush, or it's not nothing to shake a stick at.
Yeah.
Well, a lightsaber.
Yeah, but here's the thing: we're talking
ship.
That too.
But here's the thing. Here's the problem. You're talking metallurgy from a futuristic Earth compared with metallurgy from a science fiction universe. I think the metallurgy from a science fiction universe is going to be a little bit better than our metallurgy in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah. And then when you look at Beskar Gam, basically it's the metal that was like well sought after in the galaxy, the Star Wars galaxy, and only the Mandalorians knew how to metallurge it into like even thin paper, like aluminum, and even cloth-like material. And then in the Vong, their staffs, their MP staffs, their poison couldn't even penetrate the metal.
I will say one thing there.
I have to dip out and have dinner, but I'll be quick.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
I will say the one thing that I will, I will say is even Beskar Gem, isn't a complete. It's a series of plates that you're wearing. So there are a couple points, just like underneath the armpit and such like that, that a Jedi can find a way to slide a lightsaber through. Those points probably would be somewhat vulnerable, but I think like all in all, I don't know if this acid blood is going to be able to penetrate just the metal of Beskar.
Yeah. So we also got a couple other species. We got the Crusher caste, which is basically it's a Praetorian, but it's on all fours. It's a quadruped with a cranial shield like a queen's, but it's a lot thicker. And this thing is basically, it's a battering ram. It's kind of like a tank of the Xenomorphs of a way. And we got a Ravager, which is purely offensive. Unlike warriors and drones, these things will not try to harvest people with facehuggers. This thing's purely seek and destroy. And to make things interesting, we are going to add in some of the Pred aliens from AVP-R and the AVP game, because the AVP-R or the AVP-R movie, for anyone who has seen it, the Pred alien from that one was a queen embryo, but also mixed with a predator. So that's why it was able to lay eggs inside of people using its own self instead of facehuggers. But because most of these Mandalorians are going to have their helmets on, it's going to be hard pressed to do that. Now, there's not going to be any facehuggers in this fight, so we don't have to worry about that. And the Predalien from the game is basically, it's not a queen embryo. It's basically a warrior class alien, but it's still very strong, very fast, and it can take a hell of a beating. I mean, this thing was going into lava and not even phasing. So with all of that in mind, let's get into this battle. Basically, it's 500 versus 500. 500 Xenos versus 500 Mandos. So we'll start with OG.
Oh, fun. Okay. All right. So I'm new to this. So how do you start this? How do you want me to approach this?
Basically, who do you think would win and why?
All right. So looking and so I'm like analyzing it right now and comparing like how the Mandalorians handled like the Jedi, and the Sith as well, and other species, including the invasion of the Yuuzhan Vong, and how they had many different type of poisonous like beetles, and also their lymphy staff that has poison as well. And the armor that they use and how they crafted their armor and how well they fought, and because they're a fighting culture. And I think it would be a close, I think that would be a close fight between the two. They don't give up. They held their own when they fought against the Vong on Mandalore. And I think that it would be a close fight. And I think the Mandalores would overthrow them. For the simple fact that I'm comparing him with a Vong. But you want to add to that, Ryan?
Well, I would just say when you're looking at this, there's no doubt that the Xenomorphs are a force to be reckoned with.
Correct.
They're just absolute, like, they're animals. They're instinctually driven. And I would say that maybe the best people to deal with them in the Star Wars universe are, in fact, the Mandalorians. This is a culture that has thousands of years worth of history of just being warriors. They are bred for this as well. It's become instinctual for them. 4,000 years before the Battle of Yavin, you know, one planet, well, not one planet, but one culture brought the entire galaxy to its knees. A relatively small group of people in the Mandalorians, like almost took over the entire galaxy if it hadn't been for some of the Jedi deciding to ignore the Jedi Council and lead a war, lead the galaxy in war against them. And when you talk about what family means, like family is warrior culture in the to the Mandalorian people. And it doesn't matter, you know, it doesn't matter what species you are. It doesn't matter where you come from. All they care about is being Mandalorian. It means more than blood to them. And the essence of that is fighting. So I think that 100%, if anyone was going to be able to go up against the Xenomorphs, it would be the Mandalorians. Is it going to be tough? Yes. But when you factor in the fact that they have the armor to take a beating, really the only way I think that they're going to get hurt by the Xenomorphs is blunt force trauma. Which, you know, even if you hit somebody in the head with the helmet, you know, they got a helmet, but it's not going to protect, you know, your brain still kind of rattling around. I think that's the only thing, aside from a couple people who maybe get penetrated with the acid in like a weak spot in between the plates of the armor. I mean, other than that, what are the Xenomorphs going to do?
Well, to give a little bit of an anatomy lesson for the Xenomorphs, they have a very sharp tail. I mean, this stuff can, or I don't know if it'll pierce Beskar, but it can't, or if they do learn to get through the places in between, like you said, the weak spots, it could definitely get in. They can use, or the tail is extremely prehensile. They can wrap people around, throw people around. And the thing about Xenomorphs is they're a hive mind. So anything that, it's not just a one-way hive mind. The drones and all of the species, or all of the other species that are under a queen's rule, will learn what others are learning. So if they can find, or if they find a weakness in the Beskar, every one of these aliens will learn and absorb that information. So yes, we are also going to have a queen in this battle too. I mean, she's not just going to be in a nest laying eggs. Like I said, there's no face huggers in this one. So she is also going to be on the field of battle. And believe me, she's one tough bitch. As to take a little bit of a line from Sigourney Weaver, get away from her, you bitch. Well, she's one tough bitch.
With this queen, what happens when you kill the queen of the hive mind? We saw, you know, a good example of that. The good example of that in the Star Wars universe would be like the Yamaz. When they were able to, like against the Yuzong Vong, when they were able to kill a Yamask, then the entire battle got thrown off because all of a sudden these people who are used to giving orders by this hive mind, all of a sudden can't operate individually.
It's very disorienting.
Right. So what happens if you take out the queen?
If you do take out a queen, it will incredibly disorient the hive.
Okay.
But there are a few exceptions in the in AVP 2010, the game. Number 6 survives the severing of the nest, or of the hive mind, and she's able to become a queen herself. But they can still do what is necessary if they are in danger. I mean, they took her on board of a ship, and she still managed to kill almost everyone except for a couple of people, and then basically kind of create a small hive around herself in order to evolve. So if you do kill a queen, you can disorient it, or you can disorient the hive. But Praetorians, because they are basically the bodyguards, and like Annihila's said, they are the ones that will usually take over as a queen. They don't necessarily have to evolve into a queen because of their caste system. So of a sense, it won't be as strong of a hive mind, but a Praetorian can take up the reins in extreme conditions. So, yeah, if you kill the queen, you can disorient them, but it might not last too long.
Okay, so that also is similar to the Killiks when you read about the in the Dark Nest, where we had two Jedi that was in charge of, or that ruled the Killiks, and it was a hive mind. And once they were defeated, basically they went back to their own like state of the state before the Jedi were ruling, or in the collective hive mind. But they still established their own queen, but they went back to their passive lifestyle before the Jedi were in there. And so basically that's almost similar as that as well. So I think also too with the Mandalorians, we see how well they adapt to fighting. And even when you see like Boba Fett training Jaina to fight against her brother, he tells her to, don't fight like how you're expected or how he expects you to be. You always have to adapt and overcome and find different tactical ways to fight.
Well, if I might interject, here's how I see this playing out, and this is something I've been thinking on the last couple of days. There's a couple of scenarios that I played out in my head as to how the Mandalorians would combat an incursion from the Xenos. Now, one being if these 500 Mandalorians are on a capital ship, and they come across an alien world somewhere in the Star Wars universe and everything, and they land to see if there's to do some surveying to see if this planet is something that would be a planet that would be ideal for colonization or something along those lines, and they came across a creator ship or an engineer ship, and there was a nest there. Yeah. My guess would be they would probably send out a small expeditionary force to survey the planet, survey the ship, and that's where you get your first initial contact between the Mandalorians and the Xenos. Now, that being said, if that expeditionary force takes severe losses or part of them gets back to the main group or to the main camp or whatever, they're going to report back, okay, we've got a hostile force on this planet. They are extremely tough, extremely durable, because I'm going to give the Xenos their due credit. They are very resilient. They're a very hardy, very tough race. Here's how I see that scenario playing out. They're like, okay, we can do one of two things. We can send a larger force and possibly take more casualties. Or we evac to the capital ship, and we glass the planet from orbit, because the Mandalorians, their capital ships do have that capacity that they can do orbital bombardment, or they can bring their capital ship down into the atmosphere, and they just bombard that engineer ship with the alien nest, and poof, problem solved.
Well, I don't know. It may get complicated if we bring all of that stuff into it, because obviously the Mandalorians have their own. Have their own construction, like their own ship construction capabilities, and they so they manufacture the Besseliks, and also their I forget what are they called, the air tanks, basically.
I forget what they're called, but those suckers were badass.
Now there is the possibility that they might try to engage in a ground campaign. Here's the advantages the Mandalorians have over the Xenos. Obviously, their technological advantages, their vehicles, and so on. Not to mention, to the best of my knowledge, Xenos can't fly. Mandalorians can, and I'm guessing that the Mandalorians we're talking about will have access to their jetpacks and so on. Not to mention their rocket jetpack combinations that have the ballistic rockets that can be launched off of it. That will give them an advantage as well. Now, yes, they have a very good leaping capability in terms of the Xenos, but if you get the Mandalorians high enough in the air, that leaping capability is not going to mean jack diddly squat, and they can just basically bombard them anything from the air. If they're wanting to do it in a normal man-on-man, army versus army type of scenario, I still give the edge to the Mandalorians here because of their technological superiority. Now we've got 500 versus 500. you might have the Mandalorians take some casualties depending on if the aliens are able to get around those technological capabilities. But here's the thing. The Mandalorians with their Beskar armor have an advantage over the colonial marines from the alien universe. That armor pretty much covers them from to mention it's extremely durable, it's extremely adaptable. The Mandalorians have got, honestly, weaponry that can subdue and drive away the Xenos, because we know Xenos hate flamethrowers. They hate open flame.
Right.
Yeah.
Ooh.
So
there you go.
And
So
their
basically,
jetpack
the
too will help them out too as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, the Mandalorians could rig up a mega or a super powered flamethrower or something that could be linked to a basilisk armor unit, or a hover or flying tank or hover tank, wherever it's called, or they can even create a completely different vehicle that's primarily focused around that flamethrower technology and basically just roast those Xenos en masse.
Mm-hmm.
Well, here's the thing. We're not going to make it too easy for the Mandalorians. So we are, or basically, I think it was Epi that asked the question, what's the terrain? We're going to make it, there's no ships. So maybe one basilisk war droid or two. But we are not going to give them the heavy tanks, unfortunately. We're going to try to make this as even a playing field as possible. So, yes, I mean, you got good points there, Investor.
I feel like if it's open, the Mandalorians have like a clear advantage because they're ranged weaponry.
Yes,
you know what I mean. Like
because you can't. Go ahead.
The way I see it, basically, they're invading, or you got an infestation on Mandalore, and they're invading Kiramoru.
Okay, then that brings that changes the strategy altogether, for the simple fact that if this Xeno infestation is on Mandalore itself, if we can take the design of their cities from the Clone Wars as an indication as how most of their cities are designed, it's basically an enclosed dome, and then the city is down below ground.
Well,
we can figure.
No.
Go ahead, Ryan.
Well, I was just gonna say,
Clone
Clone Wars isn't actual Mandalorians. That's some fanfic Dave Filoni bullshit.
Okay, well,
it's mostly just like it's kind of just like a rural town, to be honest. It's not some big grand city. They're a very like they're not the type of people that are showing shit off. You know, it's farmland.
They're farmers.
Basically. It like. That's what most of Mandalore is. It's just farmland, and the cities are just.
They meet once in a while for the greater good of the Mandalorian. Basically, their culture is family based, but it is a warrior culture. Yeah, so if we stick to that, then I think that's all right. But also, too, I wanted to say also is that. Are we just gonna stick to modern day Beskar Gam, or are we gonna consider like them? Maybe switching back to maybe the Crusader armor that, Fett did a long time ago for the Great Sith War.
Cassius Fett, or Cassius Fett, right?
Yeah.
I feel like when I envision my head, I'm just kind of thinking of like Fett's Mandalore.
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking, basically.
Mm-hmm. That's what because they're almost totally covered and protected.
Yeah.
I needed a frame of reference because I didn't know which Mandalore we were talking about. If we were talking about Clone Wars Mandalore, if we were talking about EU Mandalore.
If you guys can pull up any armor pics, I can still share screens. So yeah.
Clone Wars Mandalore would get absolutely. Can I swear on this
thrashed?
Bone.
Yes, you can swear on this channel. This is not for kids.
They would get fucked in the ass in a heartbeat because they're fucking pussies.
Although,
thing is,
I don't know if we brought this up, but I do have another question.
Yeah.
Facehuggers.
No, they're not in this.
No facehuggers in this.
Okay.
But to give a small thing of what Ryan just said about them getting fucked up the ass, if you look at the 2010 game, if you do a sneak attack with the alien, they actually kill a person from behind. They get right up through the ass and out the mouth with their tail. They go very graphic in that game.
Yeah.
Well, they should. It's aliens for crying out loud.
Yeah, that's true.
Rated
Yeah,
M,
okay,
after all.
aliens were
Hey, it's
talking.
H.R. Giger. That dude was kind of a perf.
Imagine an Alien versus
Yeah.
Predator material where it wasn't rated M or other. So, oh wait,
Yeah. I don't think one ever existed except for, well, maybe the earlier versions.
the AVP movie was
Well-
PG-13.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and that was their mistake.
Even though I think
And that was
I
their
think
mistake.
it was already dead.
I
Staying back on topic, okay, it's a rural, not as organized. Well, okay, maybe not as militarized Mandalore that I'm accustomed to seeing. I'm still going to have to say the Mandalores take some initial heavy losses, but they eventually do come out on top because, as I said, they've got their jetpacks, they've got their ballistics, they've got their flame units, and so on. I'm going to say, with all that being said, you take if they're obviously the Mandalorians are incredibly smart. They're going to figure out, okay, let's take out that big sucker right there in the middle and see what it does. The minute they take out that queen, and if they're able to drop any like large explosives and everything, if like they're able to rig up some sort of large explosives that several Mandalorians can carry together and do like an aerial bombardment, or use a couple of basilisks to do something similar and do a large bombardment, that's pretty much going to vaporize most of, if not all, the Xenos in a matter of minutes, and then they just have to mop up the last few stragglers that might be left. And for a Mandalorian, that's going to be nothing. I mean,
Yeah,
but I don't think
If-
we're not
if
using
we're
ships.
just a bug.
We're not using ships. We're not doing anything like that. It's just the way Orange
we're
has
not
set
going
up.
overtly heavy ordnance.
Yeah, it's just
Okay.
500 Xenos.
Well, I'm
versus
just-
500 Mandalorians with what they would normally carry with them to a battle.
Yeah,
So the
still think it would-
Xenomorphs.
okay, will that be? Like I said, I was playing out all the different scenarios in my head before I got
Yeah.
started on this, so I need to know the parameters. That all being said, I still give the edge to the Mandalorian just for the simple fact that this is a warrior culture. It is a warrior culture that is thousands of years old. It is a culture that values the collective of the group and honor in battle and so on. And not just that, but let's face it, if they can go toe to toe with force wielders, both Jedi and Sith alike, they're not going to have a whole lot of trouble taking out a bunch of beasts in their frame of reference.
So
Well,
the Xenomorphs, they rely on just basically the fierceness of what their body provides, like poison and how their tail, the strength of their tail, and brute force, right?
yeah. They don't. Or the only way that they ever used weapons was when they were hybridized by Wayland Yutani.
Okay, so we want to keep like the Mandalorians with what they're used to fighting with, and we want to keep the Xenomorphs. So we want to have the Mandalorians still in their armor. We still want them to have their tools and their fighting, their armor and their fighting tools and all that. Correct.
Yes.
So to keep it even draw, just no ships, right?
No ships, no heavy explosive ordnance. I mean, our jetpack missiles are, those work, and maybe if you got really big guns, those could work.
Okay.
So
But yes,
I feel like the ranged weaponry and the jetpacks are going to provide a pretty good advantage for the Mandalorians to be able to stay at a distance. While everything, because you said they're invading Mandalore, basically.
yes,
I would say while the fight stays open and in the distance, the first initial part of the battle, I feel like the Mandalorians are going to have an easy time, especially if a couple of them can quickly, concentrate their firepower to take out a single Xenomorph at a time before they even get anywhere close to range.
Yeah.
I think that's a huge advantage for them. Now, I do think that as fighting gets closer, and maybe as I don't know, the Xenomorphs maybe try to go to ground and to hide. Like that's kind of how I would see the battle playing out. The closer quarters you get, the more advantage the Xenomorphs will have.
yeah. And to basically give you an idea on how effective ranged weaponry can be and cannot be. How many of you have seen AVP, Alien vs. Predator?
Yes.
Yep.
I have.
You have. Okay, so basically, if a xenomorph gets or can get around a predator with their shoulder caster or plasma caster, or burner as they call them, it can actually disarm it. It can actually get it off and whatnot. So yes, you can actually, or there is an advantage with ranged weaponry, but I think it's Ravagers that are. Let me go back to my notes here. Remember that this one, we're not just dealing with the warriors. We're dealing with many different species. We got Predalians, Boilers, Crushers. The Crusher is like a tank, basically, with its huge cranial crest. This thing can basically, it's like a battering ram or a bull on a china shop.
I think
and
so.
not to interrupt you, but also too with the Mandalorians, they're just not one species either. So we got to consider that as
Very
well.
true.
Are any species in the Mandalorians, can they be immune to the poisons? Or, so we have to factor that in. We don't know, but just using the fact that there's different type of species of the xenomorphs, and there's many species that are adopted into the Mandalorian culture and raised and trained and stuff, that does also put a lot of factors into that.
Well, we could put in different species, but now there are not poisonous, so to speak. It's just that the acid it's basically their acid is the biggest thing to get through. They're not poisonous like the Yuzon Bong. They don't have venom.
Right.
But if you do get bit by one of them or something like that, I'd still want to clean it out. Yeah.
And also, they can spit it at you.
Yes, there are spitters.
Even the normal Xenos can spit it at you.
Yes. They do have ones that can spit.
Will say
kind of like the best, kind of like the MP staff from the Vong, then, because they could spit the poison at you and stuff as well.
Yeah.
I'll also make a case for the Crusher here, because out of all the Xeno species types, the Crusher has a better chance against a squadron of Mandalorians than, say, the normal Xenotypes, because of that reinforced plating on its head. It stopped bullets in Colonial Marines. I can only imagine that the plasma shots from the blaster rifles will just either ricochet off it, or it'll just piss it off. And also, there's another reason, and this just goes for the Xenomorphs in general. Xenomorphs have acid blood. Plasma reacting to acid, I'm pretty sure that's going to explode.
Possibly. That's a good idea.
Yeah, but here's the thing. If it explodes, but if the Mandos are taking them out at range rather than up close, you get a plasma reaction with their acid.
Right.
Any aliens that are caught in the blast zone and everything, if there is a reaction, it's going to pretty much take out.
That is a point in favor of the Mandalorians. However, if if they are close, it's a grenade going off, essentially.
Well, and here's the other fact of the matter. A laser bolt can pass through, as far as we know in the Star Wars universe, say for a lightsaber blade, just about any material except for Beskar.
Right.
And as far as I can recall, I don't think the aliens in the Xenos in the alien universe have had to go up against any type of high-powered plasma energy weaponry that has been developed by the humans. Here's the other thing: the Mandalorians are going to be able to, over time, distinguish the different classes of Xenos and say, okay, what's the best way that we can take out these individual types of Xenos the most effectively and the quickest way possible to our advantage.
True.
That's one of the things about the Mandalorians that some people or anything may forget about, is the fact that the Mandalorians, while they are very skilled warriors, they're also great strategists. They have some great strategic minds within their army, I would wager. So even
I'm not disagreeing with you.
Oh, I know.
Mm-hmm.
even your rank. Okay, I want to say rank and file. Even your most basically trained Mandalorian is going to have a good strategic mind. Now, if you've got several high-ranking members in the Mandalorian military that are known for their strategy, they're going to be able to, on the fly, relatively quickly, figure out a strategy to take out the different kinds of Xenos that are in this particular army, and they're going to figure out eventually that it does operate on a hive mind just by observing the tactics that the Xenos do employ. So,
I also do
so
think
you got. Go ahead.
I will just say I ultimately think that the Mandalorians are going to have the ultimate edge in this, because no matter how intelligent the Xenomorphs are, and yes, they do take on the characteristics of their hosts, but they almost always operate on a hive instinct, whereas the Mandalorians can adapt their strategy as they need to.
Mm-hmm.
That is one of
the both. There's advantages to both of those for sure. The hive mind being they can all react as one.
Mm-hmm.
But like you said, the Mandalorians do have that ability to easily adapt, and every Mandalorian has that capability, because although they are a fearsome force when they're together, they're also very proficient alone.
Yes.
Which is important.
Mm-hmm. And whereas a single Xenomorph is...
Epi makes a good point here. Xenos have a hive mind with a rather high intelligence. Their teamwork and reactions as a group might actually be faster, although Xenos can learn the tactical patterns of the Mandalorians just the same. Or also the Xenos can. So that is something that we also got to take into account. Xenos are not just instinctual animals. These things are incredibly intelligent, which they show in movies and games. In Aliens, they basically drew the Colonial Marines in and started a slaughter party. In
the lesser-known Alien vs. Predator 2 by Monolith, you begin the game as a facehugger. You go through the alien life cycle.
Yeah.
And then you cause that outbreak.
Mm-hmm. Now, also, basically, because I also do give some of the stuff, I don't just moderate. Basically, one of the things that could happen in this thing is there is a hive. We will have a hive, but the queen is not strung up to lay eggs. The queen is going to conduct the battle from the hive. Mm-hmm. She will be seeing what her kids basically see, because this is what because basically that is what the Xenos are. They are her children. She will be seeing what they see, learning what they are seeing, and all that stuff to conduct the battle. And basically, the way I see it, the Mandalorians will push them back. And I will say this. It is going to be a close fight. It is going to be an extremely close fight. Meaning, I'm willing to bet the Mandos, the way I see this whole thing playing out, the Mandos will win. But it's going to cost them all the way up to 50 Mandos possibly living.
I agree.
I was actually going to put my estimate higher. I would say, being we're going 500 on both sides, I would say it would cost maybe the Mandos upwards of half their army. There's only 250 left living.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
because
Orange Hat, you're saying there's only 50 left, right? They almost get wiped out, right?
Of this, or in this particular scenarios, in the way that I'm seeing the scenarios,
I think I don't know about the majority of them, but I think so many of those losses come at the end trying to get the queen out. Everyone's protecting her.
That is basically that's how I'm seeing it, because the melters or the boilers are going to be inside the nest, and I'm gonna say that we'll basically give 60 to 70 boilers, so they're the ones that can explode in a rain of acid. If they sense any movement, they go straight to them and boom.
Yeah.
Now, there's going to be heavy losses, because when you get into the nest of a Xenomorph, first off, you're going to have to try to see these things, and the walls could be crawling with them, They could be hiding in the walls because they can camouflage very well. Now, hold on one second. We got Epime.
So
Keep
just
in
saying
mind-
that the Xenomorphs do make nests on Mandalore, and they have to fight from the outside in. The best strategic plan that the Mandalorian has is try to eliminate as much as they can before they get inside the nest, where the main warriors will be in there to protect the queen, and do that without losing as many of the warriors as possible.
Yes, basically, the way I see it, the Mandalorians are going to rely on their ranged game, their ranged weapons. And they're going to definitely cut down a lot of the Xenos in the beginning of the battle. Fuck the man. But let's read Epi's here.
I have a question about like Xenomorph senses as far as visually and auditory and everything like that, because we do know that they have essentially flashbangs. You know, whether they're sonic grenades or whether they are actually like kind of the typical flashbang grenades in the Star Wars universe, and the Mandalorians would have plenty of those available when they start going in the nest. With the senses of the Xenomorphs, are they going to be more affected by those than, say, an average person would because their senses are so heightened? Or
Xenomorphs are essentially blind. They have no sense of hear or sight, meaning they are not, well, they don't see the way that we do. They don't have external eyes. So, honestly, this is a good question, Ryan, because we don't exactly know how they see, so to speak.
They use sonar?
Maybe.
That's what I was about to say.
Possibly.
Do they use some? I thought that they used some sort of sonar and everything to navigate around there.
Grenades.
Yeah, because if that's the case, if the Mandalorians are able to catch on to that fact, thank you.
Sorry about that.
To catch on to that, no, it's okay. If the Mandalorians are able to pick up on the fact that these suckers are vulnerable to any type of auditory assault, or they have an auditory weakness or anything, that's going to give them an edge, in a manner of speaking, because don't the Mandalorians have some sort of sonic grenades, or do they? Would they, in some case, would they have, like what Jango Fett had on his ship, those sonic mines?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh,
That they could.
Awesome.
The Mandalorians, since it's on their train, they have the advantage with that. Even if the Xenomorphs do morph the nest to suit them and stuff, and then plus they're on their home territory, so they're going to have some equipment that they could use against them as well.
Yeah. Because Kiramoru, even though it was a very simple town, I'm willing to bet they would have had that place rigged for battle if it ever came down to it.
Yeah. Well, the Mandalorians and everything, their towns and their villages, or at least their towns, were fairly well fortified and everything. So you would figure that they would have defenses in place if the Xenos decide to walk up to the front door and try and get in, and there's going to be like blast them and everything from their weapons emplacements if they have that sort of thing. I've got this image in my head. If it's inaccurate, forgive me. A fortified Mandalorian encampment or town is basically going to be a walled settlement that's going to have battle emplacements along the perimeter of it, and also going to have walkways and so on that the Mandalorians can fire from. So if I'm off base here, correct me and everything, because I don't know absolutely everything about Mandalorian culture.
Epi has a good point. Energy-based technology and weapons make the Mandalorians highly visible and detectable to Xenos. There's not stealth advantage for them, at least. And yes, because Xenos are very stealthy as well. So, what are you guys' thoughts on this stealth factor?
What, for the Xenos or for the Mandalorians?
How would the Mandalorians deal with the stealth factor of the Xenos?
Well, we know that Xenomorphs don't show up on infrared. So if the Mandalorians have Yeah.
Yep. So thermal detection is not going to work because their body temperatures are, well, not measurable, so to speak.
Right.
Yeah.
Was there any way to detect them? Because like I said, I was brushing up on the Xenomorph
Motion
culture.
trackers.
The
Okay.
predators,
Motion trackers.
yes, motion detection, and the predators had a vision selection that could highlight a xenomorph, but it also basically made them essentially blind to everything else.
Okay.
But we're not dealing with predators here either.
Right. So Mandalorians would still be able to track them. Obviously, Mandalorian helmets have like a bunch of different kinds of vision, from ground penetrating radar to thermal vision to everything like that.
Yes.
So Mandalorian spotting them shouldn't be any issue at all, correct?
No, not really, because I mean, Mandalorians also have 360-degree vision with their helmets.
Yeah, and they're able to see through walls.
Yeah.
They're able to see through, like I said, ground penetrating radar. So while they are trying, because I think that's where most of us are at right now, the Mandalorians trying to infiltrate wherever they have set up this hive, whether it's underground, whether it's in a building, whatever. They're trying to infiltrate and get in. They're going to know exactly the situation that they're going into when it comes to the layout of the Xenomorphs. I don't really know if stealth, if the Mandalorians are going to be too worried about stealth.
I don't think they've ever been worried about stealth, because it's like, even when they fought the Vong and and through previous wars and stuff, that was never a big issue with them, and they were always the ones that just went straight to the battle and fought face to face. That's part of their culture.
Honor.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. That's the one thing that would hurt them, is because yes, stealth would have actually helped the Mandalorians in many battles, but it's because of their honor-bound ways that they see like sneak attacks as kind of dishonorable.
Right, but that means nothing to an enemy without that concept. Which
True.
that's what the Xenos are.
Very true.
Well,
Well, assuming that Mandalorians can see through walls or penetrate through walls and other like material and stuff, I imagine that they could have done that with the biomechanics of the bioships and stuff of the Yuuzhan Vong. So then I think that they would be able to still see through the nests and whatever the Xenomorphs may have established.
It is possible that they might be able to see through the organic, because like you said, they were able.
That are organic.
Yeah, I mean the Vong are completely anti-tech, so.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Now we are coming up. Hold on one sec. We are coming up on the ending, or on like 7 minutes to the hour point. We might go a little over because, well, we did start a little late. But yeah, let's or just letting everybody know. So what were you about to say, Ambassador?
Okay. Well, this is just a question. Do these Mandalorians have those wrist-mounted energy shields on their armor, or is that something we're excluding?
I think we'll exclude that. That's
that's Disney shit.
Well, it's not necessarily Disney. You'd have the KOTOR games for the sake of video games where you could, activate an energy shield that gave you protection for a little while.
Yeah.
But I think for this case, in the Fett era, 4,000 years after that, I don't know how much evidence we've seen of that kind of thing. Maybe you can back it up, Alora.
Okay.
But,
okay.
I don't think that.
I was just curious more than anything. So
the only, if we're going by EU and Clone Wars, Genndy Tartakovsky Clone Wars, early 2000s, there was only one person that I saw that had the energy gauntlets on, or the shield gauntlets, and that was Dirge.
That was Dirge.
Yeah, Dirge. So they're possible, but I'd not seen a Mandalorian wield them.
Yeah, so
and
that's fine.
Clone Wars. Yeah. So, all right, we are winding down on the hour mark. So, all in all, we have agreed, or basically, we're all of one mind that the Mandalorians will win. So, basically, what are what's the damage that the Mandalorians will have taken? How many, or OG, how many do you think are left after all is said and done?
Like I said in the tactics, and I think we all agreed with it, like as that they're better, like they are better fighting on the outside, making their way in. Once they make their way in is where we're going to see a lot more losses than anything else. If they're able to destroy as many as they can before they get into the hive, and they have minimal losses, then I would say maybe half of them they will survive, like 500 to 200. If there is significant loss, I think maybe 50 are left, maybe, or maybe even like 100. But I do see also Mandalorians also, you know, doing like giving up their lives to help others, the other Mandalorians as well, to succeed as well. So you'll have those combatants going in to distract, so the ones coming in after them can come in and penetrate. So that's why I am basing that on that.
All right, so basically around 50 left after all is said and done.
Half to 50, depending on, like, I'm just using scenarios here. So yeah,
I agree with that assessment, and like, the vast majority of those losses are going to come from the inside. Outside, the Mandalorians are on their home turf. It's when you get into the dark and closed spaces that you're on the Xenos' home turf. They've got the advantage no matter their terrain.
Yeah.
All right, Ryan, how many do you think would be alive?
I think that they're going to take a lot of damage. I'm kind of with you. You said around 50. I would say between 50 and 100. Like I said, I don't think they're taking any they're not going to take any major losses out in the open, because they have the advantage of being able to use range, and then also the fact that if they get rushed, they can use those jetpacks for immediate escape. I think they're kind of going to be toying with them out there in the open. But the vast majority of those things are going to come when they're trying to get the queen. They're going to take heavy losses, but I think they're going to get it done in the end. They just have I just feel like the way the battle is playing out with the Xenomorphs coming to attack, they're going to be in the open. They are going to be the aggressors initially. They're attacking. Right. So they're going to be in the open and have a big opportunity to take a lot of them out before the queen realizes that they need to pull back and she needs to protect herself.
Yeah.
So, all right. Ambassador.
I'm pretty much on the same mind. I think that the Mandalorians are going to come out on top of this. I'm putting my estimate at losses a little bit higher than everyone else. I'm saying they lose, if there's 500 of them, they're going to lose roughly half or over half of the force that they went into this. They went with 500. They're going to come out with maybe 200 surviving.
All right. So that is, I'd say those are pretty safe estimates, to be honest, because remember, these are not just beasts. They're they're dealing with an intelligence factor, and the closer that they get to the queen, you're going to see a lot more intelligence, a lot more sneaking around, a lot more problems. I mean, with the boilers blowing up in front of these guys, the acid's going to get everywhere, and it's going to hit in between the cracks and whatnot of the armor. Not the cracks of the armor, obviously. I mean, like the places in between the plates and whatnot. So it's definitely going to have, they're going to have some substantial losses. But because, well, the Mandos also communicate with each other in their own helmets, they're also going to let people know or what's going on, what to expect. Yeah. The more people go in. Epi here, I call him Epi because I don't know how it's pronounced. But anyway, the Xenos aren't really the aggressors unless they are facehuggers. Well, we are not dealing with facehuggers. Hive expansion is usually what makes them commit to an engagement. The queen would most likely send a scout force of 100 plus. Well, that is true in normal circumstances.
Yeah, but when you look at the situation and based upon what Epi said, is that basically they're expanding their hives on to Mandalore. So there's a reason for the queen to send out and protect because they are taking over a world that's not theirs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
And
Take
then-
it easy, Raging Rhino.
Yeah.
And thank you for dropping by. And also, folks, do be sure to hit that like button. And also, thank you for those who shared the stream out. We actually had a pretty good turnout with 11 viewers at one time.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you guys. And so we are going to wrap it up. Let me just get that comment back down. So we are going to do final plugs and whatnot. So we'll start with ladies first. OG.
Hi again, and thank you so much for having me here, Orange Hat, and with the wonderful panel here, Ryan and Ambassador and Darth and Nihilus. Thank you so much, and I enjoyed this conversation, this little debate between one franchise and against another with some brilliant fighter species, and one thing I was thinking, and we were talking about earlier, is that it would have been good to compare the Xenomorphs to the Yuuzhan Vong. So that would have been fun.
Yeah.
That would have been a fun one.
In this case, this was not a debate. This was not a debate, my friend. This was a bug hunt.
This is a bug hunt. Yeah. Felix, when you
Excuse me, sir. Is this going to be a straight up fight or another bug hunt?
Somebody go wake up Hicks.
Yes. Yeah. So we were doing a bug squash here, squashing bugs here. But yeah, so thank you so much for having me on here. It was fun, and just to explore the knowledge and and then also learning more about the Xenomorphs as well, other than just watching it in the movies, because I know them through the movies, but I never followed the franchise of this. So it was great to listen and hear and expand my knowledge on that. So thank you for having me. And I think we froze. Hello.
Hello.
Hello?
I'm here.
It was Orange Hat.
Orange Hat.
It was him.
OrangeHat.exe has stopped working. Windows would like to
that's
reboot the
awesome.
program.
OG, was there anything? Have you got anything coming up for your channel that you wanted to plug real quick before we?
No, actually, the thing that I'm going to do is on the 25th, I'm going to do something according to Star Wars Day. That is when A New Hope and I think Empire Strikes Back came out on May 25th.
Yes.
So I'm going to plan something nice for that. But also
Sweet.
my lore comes out on Tuesdays. I try to catch up on Star Wars news as much as I can. And then also my coffee chat 9 a.m. on Thursdays where we discuss, the EU.
Yeah.
And,
I watched
just
that on
nerd
occasion.
out together. Just nerd out. It's fun. So you guys catch me on that.
Absolutely.
All right.
Ryan?
Yeah, so thanks for having me on. It was a good discussion. I learned a lot about Xenomorphs, which I don't know much about. It was a good discussion. Glad to be on. We'll see about 2 weeks from now. Maybe we'll be back if we can make it work to have another great Star Wars related discussion. But yeah, good talking, everybody. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. Hope my channel's still here in the next couple days. So.
Yeah.
We pray for you.
Those strikes
luck,
it sucks that you got hit with those.
Yeah, it really does.
Yeah, it is.
All right, so Nihilus and Ambassador.
Nihilus, you go ahead. I'll go last.
Okay. Well, I'm a nihilist. I'm not as well known as these two fine people above me, but I am primarily a gaming stream channel. I've played some Star Wars. I've played some Dead Space. I'm currently going through the first Mass Effect.
Ooh,
Oh, nice.
nice.
And the
So you
Star
don't let
Wars
live.
the Star Wars that I have streamed are unfortunately the 2017 Battlefront 2 campaign, and then more fortunately Jedi Outcast.
Yeah, I'm gonna get that eventually. So
It's good.
that's what I've heard. That's all I've heard is it's good. I'm gonna get it eventually. I'm gonna get it sometime in the near future. So. Well, as for myself, you can find me on YouTube at The Ambassador. I cover pop culture of the 80s and 90s and modern era. Tomorrow night, I am going to be covering what some people in this panel may consider an unpopular topic. We're going to be talking about the final season of Clone Wars, going over this final season and discussing that. And then, of course, Monday, that'll be at 7:30 Central Time. And please don't think I was throwing shade at anybody here. I know Disney Star Wars to some people is taboo. that was more in jest than it was me throwing shade at anybody. And then this Monday, I'll be continuing my Afternoons with the Ambassador stream with my friend Adega. We'll be talking about Season 1 of Babylon 5, and that'll be at noon. So,
right.
And of course, you can follow me on Twitter at my Twitter handle right here.
Alrighty. And with that, folks, we are going to wrap up the Versus stream. Stay tuned for 2 weeks where we are going to be bringing in the two, in my opinion, most powerful Sith of all time in Star Wars. We got Emperor Palpatine, or Darth Sidious, versus Darth Vitiate, or the immortal Sith Emperor from EU Legends.
Valkorian.
And Valkorian, Tenebrae, Vitiate, yeah. He's gone by many names, lived many lives. So it's going to be a big battle between two colossal titans of the Star Wars Sith universe. So anyway, folks, with that being said, hope you all enjoyed tonight's stream. Be sure to leave a big like, and thank you all for dropping by. I would name all of you, but that would take a while because a lot of people dropped in on this one. Anyway, folks, if you guys catch this on the replay, be sure to leave your thoughts down in the comment section. This has been Orange Hat Reviews, and stay humble.
Peace.
Bye.